Xenophobia in the UK has been stoked by considerable intolerant political discourse, a European human rights watchdog claims. The European Commission against Racism and Intolerance said racist violence had been on the rise in the UK. There had been an increase in anti-Muslim violence since 2013, as well as record levels of anti-Semitic incidents in 2014, it said in a report. The government launched a new hate crime action plan in July. A review is also underway into police handling of hate crime in England and Wales following a sharp rise after the Brexit referendum. In response to the report, the UK government said it was proud of its equalities legislation and questioned aspects of the report. The European Commission against Racism and Intolerance is part of the Council of Europe, which has 47 members and was set up to promote democracy and human rights in Europe. It is not part of the European Union. In the report, which covered the period between 2009 and March this year, the European Commission against Racism and Intolerance said the UK had generally strong legislation against racism and racial discrimination. In particular, it welcomed the Equality Act 2010, the government's hate crime action plan and efforts to promote and protect LGBT rights. But it said there continued to be considerable intolerant political discourse in the UK focusing on immigration and contributing to an increase in xenophobic sentiments. The watchdog accused UKIP and some Conservative MPs of large-scale scaremongering over the lifting of EU restrictions on Bulgarian and Romanian nationals' access to the labour market. Terms such as invasions and floods were frequently used, as well as the expression benefits tourism, it said, adding that the use of such terms contributes needlessly to an increase in xenophobic sentiments. European Commission against Racism and Intolerance Chairman Christian Alund said, "It is no coincidence that racist violence is on the rise in the UK at the same time as we see worrying examples of intolerance and hate speech in the newspapers, online and even among politicians." The Brexit referendum seems to have led to a further rise in anti-foreigner sentiment, making it even more important that the British authorities take the steps outlined in our report as a matter of priority. In its response to the report, the government said it was proud of its equalities legislation and listed several examples of action it was taking as part of its commitment to creating a fair society, including an audit to tackle racial disparities in public service outcomes and its hate crime action plan. While we are pleased to see that some examples of good practice in the United Kingdom are identified, this is heavily outweighed by lengthy sections pointing out supposed shortcomings, it said of the report. We are particularly concerned to see that the Commission repeats controversial and eye-catching press headlines and some alleged statements by politicians, which wrongly implies that these are the prevailing narratives in the UK and/or our government policy, when there are numerous cases of leading politicians celebrating and speaking out positively about the enormous contributions that minorities have made to this country's success. It is also unclear whether the Commission is making its assessments against a common set of standards, and if so, what these are, the government added, and sought assurances the UK was being held to the same standards as other EU members.